fairly awesome podcast. This week is our St. Patrick's Day, even though Nate's the only one wearing green.
Oh,
I guess we're all screwed. In honor of that, we have our very own Patrick here to keep us all company. He's not really a saint, but
Patrick Star.
It's Patrick. There's an ST in there, so I think we're good with that.
That's close enough.
I'm your host this week, Chris Keene. Joining me, Ryan McDowell.
How's it going?
Thanks for saying hi. Nate Bushing.
Hey. There's a lot of air in that.
I wanted to see how long it could keep going.
I could have kept going longer, but I felt like the radio folks.
And Nate's evil Siamese twin, Josh Bushing.
Apparently lacked the oxygen after the separation at birth.
All right.
Before we get thousands of hate mail.
Yeah. We'll start over here because we're screwed. All right, we'll jump right in here. First topic. Thanks.
Random noises for 500, Alex?
Yes.
No doubt.
Yes.
First topic. We as gamers make a lot of weird demands. And a lot of times those demands actually contradict the other demands we just made.
We're like,
we want long games, but we don't want to put a lot of time into them. Ryan, would you care to expound on your...
Yeah, so I brought this up because I noticed how many people make these sort of contrary, and sometimes it's even me, making these, in some genres, why you gotta make me jump through 13,000 hoops? And in other ones, I'm like, give me more, please.
more hoops.
Right, so it's difficult, but I wonder, can we quantify why that is? Is it multiplayer games we wish it was just more immediate access? Don't put any more roadblocks in front of me. But yet, is it, when it's only single player games that we're constantly asking for more? I don't think so. I don't think it's quite that clear cut that it's, in this, you ask for more. But I don't know. I just saw that we had a sort of a contrary, contrary opinions there on sometimes we ask for more and we're like, please take my money, and in other cases we're like, Jesus, I
paid what now?
Yeah. Right, exactly. I got
you got toast on that deal.
So what do you guys think? Can you think of games where you really were like, please come out with more content and I will pay for it every step of the way? The first one I was thinking of, Mass Effect.
Yeah.
If they came out with more DLC, I would buy every cent of it. I would buy every bit of it.
Shut up and take my money.
I would, if I hadn't played through that by this point, seriously, I would probably just quit at life.
Everybody looks at Josh.
Every time.
No, but yeah, that is one universe that just really drew me in, and it was something that I couldn't get enough of. Dynamic missions on that would be something that would be fantastic to keep me playing, that sort of thing.
I would say that, and this is kind of a blanketed statement more on the fact that because gaming has evolved and we've grown, so to speak, as gamers, I think we have a lot more tastes, different tastes. You would pay for Mass Effect, and then there's other people over on this other side of the camp of gamerdom. Wow, I don't even know what kind of
the kingdom of gamers.
The kingdom of gamers going on here with
Gamertonshire.
With Peter with Peter Dinklage on the throne and everything. I don't see gamer. No, I think those people wouldn't want to pay for a Mass Effect, and they're like, I can't get enough, or I don't want any more of Mass Effect or whatever, and they complain and say it was too long or it was too short or whatever. I think it's just us as human beings can't decide on what we want. We need other people to tell us what we want.
That totally could be.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's some people, it changes. Say Warcraft is a good example of this, where they came out with it one way, and you had up to level 60 was the first, the original game or whatever, and you got to 60, and then when they added 70 as the top level with the expansion of Burning Crusades, they changed some things around and stuff got easier, but other things were added. And then, of course, with each expansion changes more things, so other stuff is easier. And then, they dumbed down the amount of experience needed to get to new levels, and
Yep.
some people were complaining about that. They took away keys, that you had to like collect certain keys in order to get access to certain dungeons, and they were all designed as little hoops to be able, so that people were competent enough to do those dungeons. They took a lot of that stuff out.
Yeah,
And
it is
it's just
an
little bar.
interesting thing between grind versus,
But you know, some people were okay with it. Others, because their alts they didn't have to worry about it. Those are the people that were usually okay with it because they didn't have to do this whole thing all over again, even though they knew the content.
Yeah.
But then you had other people who were like the purists, were just like, well, they have to do what we did, and they're just angry, and you're like, why are you so bitter?
Yeah, it's
But,
MMOs
it's just-
evolve too. That
and
those,
if they don't evolve, they die.
yeah, exactly. And I think WoW has evolved well over the years, and I think
And I think there is a little bit of legitimate, screw you guys coming in later and getting it easier because they had to fight through.
Yeah.
And then you run into stuff where, there's a large event that takes coordination and takes people knowing what they're doing. And you've got people that,
or jackasses jumping around doing
kill
nothing.
boars their way up to the necessary level to get in.
Yeah,
boars.
we're gonna kill millions of boars.
And
Yes.
you're stuck with them. I think it is a lot of it does come down to personal taste. I think when you bring up Mass Effect 3 did a really good job of trying to make everybody happy. Like they had the different game modes that you could play. You could play with like the everything was a cutscene. There was no
They lessen the combat.
Right.
Is that what you're saying?
Combat was easier.
No decision
trees. Everything was kind of a cutscene, so you could play a straightforward first-person shooter game. If you really liked the RPG aspect, you had full decision trees, and combat was harder. So I think they kind of tried to appeal to everybody. And that's one of the first games that I've seen try and take the we'll try and please everybody, and actually seem to pull it off fairly well, because
It's hard to do.
one of the people we know complained that Mass Effect was too talky. Like they didn't like it because there was too much conversation. So if you could say, I don't like conversation, I just want to play through the game, give me a mode where it's a cutscene. I don't have to, decide whether I want to say this or this. They'll
Just give me canon.
I'll answer a couple questions that, give the game an idea as to how I would kind of play, whether I'd pick the I'd middle ground it or whether I'd be Renegade or Paragon, and I'll go with those answers, and whatever happens. So
Yeah.
I think that, like I said, I think Mass Effect 3 did a really good job turning the bridge, but I think it really does kind of come down to taste. Some people can really get into a game like Mass Effect and want to see more of it. Especially Mass Effect, there's a big enough universe. It seems like you could come up with more content. Like, when the universe is large enough, you feel like there's more, and I want to know more, and I want to see more of what's going on here. So yes, give me more content. If the game is simple playthrough and you're done and then answers the story and ties everything up nicely, additional content's not going to do you a whole lot of good. Even DLC, it's only going to go so far.
Sort of. I mean, to take this at least one path, Assassin's Creed, really good game, but yet DLC doesn't really work so well with it because the game is contained. They expect that you're going to play the game, and that's sort of it.
The game is DLC. Let's be honest. They really are.
Well, with Assassin's Creed, was it Brotherhood?
Yeah.
The game was DLC.
Yeah.
The nice thing about it is the DLC since then has not repeated that mistake, but it's kind of offered like little side tidbits, like you can.
I didn't mean it as an insult.
No. It's legitimate. It's like their DLC was friggin' 3 missions in the game.
Yeah.
Which was crap. But like the later DLC, you could play as a character that's just referenced that ends up showing up, in a later game. You could kind of see their story and play through that. So it didn't necessarily have to have any major impact on the game, but it was there to play it if you wanted more content.
I think I mean, you're right. It depends on what your tastes are and what your norms are. If you get into this or that you're going to be demanding more or less of a certain genre or certain game type. But I think it also lends to how the storytelling is done, right? If it was just if we're talking about single-player style games as opposed to multiplayer, when you talk about give me more, all you're talking about is more maps or more guns or more whatever, right? But if you're talking about give me more content or make the world bigger or whatever, it would seem to me that it's all based on their storytelling, how they do it. If they leave a lot of open-ended, a bunch of branches that it could go from there, you're intrigued. You're sort of like wanting to know what's next. Like, in TV shows that are very episodic, where they have like a major story arc, but at the end of each thing they're like leaving you hanging. I think there are game developers that are sort of like that as well. And the ones that do that, we're like, oh God, give me more. Because you sort of want to binge it. You sort of want to play your games and continue to just consume, and you're willing to pay for the DLC in those instances. Other ones where they did such a good job telling it the first time, you're like, man, it'd be nice if you just cut out this one section so I could have got to the, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And sometimes that does come from the storytelling just being maybe falling flat at points, and you're like, this whole section. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I don't know, maybe that sums it up.
Yeah. I think there's probably a little bit of a fine line there too with not giving too much extra. No, like, yeah, you either leave room for like a sequel or, do you give more, but how much more is too much more? So maybe there's kind of a little bit of a fear, like a trepidation there to put out too much content and, turn people off that were really interested, but now you just kind of saturated and there's too much stuff and, you run the risk of you fall out of canon or you contradict something somewhere else.
It's the same thing that happens like when a band goes and does their album. They cut out a certain number of songs because they're like, hey, we wrote all these songs and they could fit, but it doesn't necessarily, it might be too much or we got to save this for the next.
Doesn't fit with the theme of the album. Or
yeah, exactly. It's the same kind of thing. That, and like you said, oversaturation.
Can you think of a game that oversaturated itself?
Maybe Grand Theft Auto 5 for a lot of people. There's like so much in that game that some people get analysis paralysis. They're like, I don't know what to do, so I'm just gonna randomly drive through the world.
I think that's what drove me right now to like kind of take a time out for Mass Effect.
Is that it's so huge.
There's 3 games and there's all these DLCs and you guys talk a whole bunch about this. Yeah. So, I mean, you do. I mean, there's a lot of content to play, and right now I don't have a lot of time. But I mean, eventually I'll get to a point where I have a lot more free time to maybe, get back into it or whatever. But I think as long as it's pulling you in, it's good. But I don't know, if it feels forced, I don't think I get into it as often.
Yeah.
So I just get to the point where I get to an area where I have more free time and I can dedicate towards it. But
so maybe that's what it is too. Some of it's even then. I guess that comes back to personal taste. So time kind of factors into personal taste.
Well, you could say we've probably got a bigger market. People that have grown up playing video games are now the big buying power in a lot of these countries where gaming is prevalent. So I think that's part of what it is too. Is that you have the voice.
Yeah.
It does seem like we have way more voice in the games now than we used to.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, especially with the whole Mass Effect extended cut.
Yes.
Well, that and a bunch of Kickstarted projects.
Yep.
A lot of, tell us what you want and we'll implement it. Or
Star Citizen, it's the same thing.
I mean, Xbox One community concerns changed the direction of it entirely.
Completely.
So that wouldn't have happened with Super Nintendo, let's say. They would have had a plan and they would have stuck to it. And Lord knows that Nintendo has really prospered from that.
Yeah, instant feedback. They don't believe in the internet at Nintendo. They're like, no, our people don't want to play online.
It's still 1992.
Yeah,
it's still 1992.
There's no cursing. There's no dicks being drawn. Oh, good old Nintendo. We still love you.
We do.
There's still a special soft spot in our heads for Nintendo. Hearts. Anyway, well, speaking of Mass Effect and Star Citizen, right now, as we're recording this, Cosmos is on. We can tell because, Ryan, something's going on over here.
Underneath the table, I think.
Oh, my.
Hopefully it hasn't picked up on the microphone too heavily from thumping the underside of the table.
I don't know.
But with Cosmos coming back, this is 30 years?
30 years.
30 years later now. Has there's Cosmos. There's the recent Bill Nye, not John Hamm.
You got me.
No, wrong.
Man, you watch these a lot. Yeah. Okay, so
talking about he's like Bill Nye the Science Guy.
No,
there's Bobby's World.
No.
There's
there's Cosmos. There's the Bill Nye whatever his name is debate for
Yeah.
the Genesis, whatever the hell it was. I don't.
Yes.
It was
care.
it was Bill Nye and then science versus religion, basically.
Basically.
Kind of
You're gonna bring up the Morgan Freeman through the wormhole.
Yeah, I mean, there's been a lot
Through the
of-
wormhole.
into the worms.
Where we're going with this, but I'm
I've got.
lots and lots of spice.
Okay.
But there seems to be a lot of kind of a resurgence of science, like factual science,
Yes.
on TV presentation. Is this? I guess the question here is this kind of a natural progression that we're just kind of back to? Hey, let's talk about science. It's been long enough that there's a lot of new stuff that people don't know, or is it that science has come under fire from a lot of different places? And there kind of needs to be this, reminder, hey, science, bitches.
No, I think it's more the thirst for knowledge is there, but we've been apathetic for a long time in
it's a cultural
science.
shock right
Space in the same way. Look at where NASA's been and
Right.
where funding just keeps getting cut. It's like we're like, we've done good enough, and our generation is kind of guilty of that a little bit in some regards.
I can say that the only space missions I really know about in recent memory, I mean, seriously, within the past 10 years, the only space mission I even know about were the Mars rovers. That's about it.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that there are more going on. There are more studies and things, but I don't know. And versus maybe 25 years ago, in the 80s, there were a lot more that you did know about. You knew what the plans were. You knew what NASA's 5-year, 10-year plan was. Every time you went to, in schools, you'd hear about what those were, and the joke was in the year 2000 that they're going to have the International Space Station. It wasn't, they did end up getting one, but it was, it took a little while.
Yeah.
But, I don't know. I think in 1980, when they did Cosmos, we were also science deprived. It was like we went from the 60s and early 70s from landing on the moon, and then it sort of faded and faded and faded. And by the 80s, it was like, hey guys, this is still very important. We still need to do this. And we were still in a Cold War.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So then the Cosmos came out with Carl Sagan as the host, and really was a good, for a guy that was all about science, knew how to convey it to people that weren't all about science.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Carl Sagan had an interesting way of making people think differently about how to simply understand science.
Yes.
Versus the new one now, I don't know that Neil deGrasse Tyson has that ability that Carl Sagan did to understand it simply, but he has a different technique that Carl Sagan didn't, and that's the inspirational side of it.
Yes.
Carl Sagan didn't really have that. He had really interesting thoughts, and he had that way to communicate it. Yeah. But Neil deGrasse Tyson has that way of motivating and inspiring.
I'm a little worried, just minorly, about that, simply because he seemed very timid, kind of polished, and I'd rather see him in, his tie and really come off as saying, science matters, and really just drive it inspirationally home, as opposed to trying to be all, this is science and kind of baby step it like Sagan.
You mean comparing how, because the first episode of Cosmos has already aired, and
I enjoyed it.
Yeah,
and it's very well done, and the music is fantastic.
But it also, I think I get what you're saying, because it also was because
it didn't
kind of
feel
copied,
like Neil.
Yeah,
it kind of copied.
Yes,
Carl Sagan's versus,
and that's my thought. Is that I'm hoping that it does this split.
Right.
Standalone, it needs to be, for our generation. I think like you said, we were very apathetic about science these days, and I think just more along the lines of people just not caring about science, or that they're just, I don't know. Anyhow, I want Neil to just come back out and just start swinging. Just don't hold back punches. Just freaking let him have it, because I think once you finally get it to a point where people understand that science matters, you won't wake anybody up by just being passive at this point.
Here's the thing: he's not the writer either on this show. The writer is actually Anne Druyan. How do you? I don't remember what her. It's Carl Sagan's widow
Yeah.
is writing it. So there is going to be some of that with that same voice behind it. It's going to have some of that
I
same.
know, and it's not in this case. It's bad voice. I just don't think Neil's the one to give it like that.
Yeah, we'll see. I hope he gets, because he has had his, he's gone before Congress so many more times than Carl Sagan ever did asking for money, but that's also because NASA was higher funded even back in the 80s, so he didn't really have to say, give us more money, versus Neil deGrasse Tyson has done a lot of that, and that he's pushed a lot of the, hey, we really do need to be concerned about this. So I'm hoping that he would take this on, and that we start seeing some of that. I can think that the first episode might be a big throwback to here's how Carl Sagan did it, because he threw in a lot of the Carl Sagan stuff that happened over like 3 or 4 different episodes of the Cosmos.
Yeah.
Of the 80s Cosmos.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of hoping that all got crammed into
the first one,
and that we see some more divergent, more Neil / Anne, because Anne didn't exactly have the same exact views as Carl, or at least idea generation. So I'm thinking that there might be some of that in there, and I hope that it does become more inspirational as opposed to just PBS special. You know what I mean? Like just learning.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think the first episode was more of a reintroduction / bridge from the old episode. And I think they were, like, even though I would hope that they wouldn't have to be, I think they're still a little, kind of timid about making sure they actually draw people in. Like, they're still, we got to get people to watch the show, so we need to start off with the first episode that, lets people know kind of where it's coming from and give a general idea. But I think you're right in that, too, in that Carl Sagan kind of made it was like, here's science, allow me to help you understand it, so you have a better learning. With Neil deGrasse Tyson, you kind of get, here's science, here's how you understand it, and here's why you should be, really friggin' enthused.
Here's why we should all be fighting for
it.
Why
it should be important.
I think it'll be interesting going forward to see where the show ends up going, if it does go more of a, very, hard-hitting,
it should.
Everything about that you want to know. So, I think it's definitely going to be fun to see how it compares, at least to the previous, to the last one. And then to see, what's different and what has changed in 30 years. Especially when you think about it, in the first episode was the last 14 seconds of that calendar is recorded history.
Right.
Yes.
So, 30 years is a tiny little fraction of that calendar, but we've done so much stuff in those 30 years that we've come so far in understanding things differently than we did before. That it's just going to be so much stuff to explain. The universe seems so much bigger now. So it's going to be interesting to see exactly where that goes. But I think Neil deGrasse Tyson has enough of a love of the topic that he's probably, of all the people to get to host it, he's probably the best guy, at least the most, forward face of science now. To be the guy to do that.
There's a couple other guys that I could see, because they're already talking about Neil may not, if there's going to be a second season of this, that Neil might not be the host for this.
Yeah, that's what I was reading.
That's going to be an interesting one to see who they pick, because hopefully it's not aliens guy.
You don't want Giorgio on there? Oh man!
I mean, he's interesting, but he's kind of conspiracy theorist guy.
Yeah, he's not a.
So who knows? I just hope they're very selective in that, because it's an important role for something so public. I know Seth MacFarlane did all the animation in the first episode that you saw, where they were talking about the astronomer that figured out how
he's
it worked.
producing it.
Yeah.
So that's kind of cool.
Which one of those guys was Stewie?
He actually did some voices too. Seth MacFarlane. Yeah, he had some voices in there.
Oh, that's good.
For some of that animated side.
I liked it. I did. I liked the episode. It was fun. I'm gonna definitely be constantly watching it. I want it to succeed. It's really this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, I don't think we're the problem. You know what I mean? No,
yeah, it's true.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't think we're the part of the people that are like, we were following this stuff before it even made a show on Fox. But, it's exciting to us because we're hoping that more people get excited about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess the shoot off of that is there a lot of concern that science has fallen by the wayside, or is it not so much that that it's still there in general, but a lot of what shows up in the public is the, dumber side of people and science.
It's consumer electronics, really.
Honestly, I think if we just had more people with the patience to know that some people grasp concepts slower than others. And if you understand that you grasp a science concept, but if you, try and tell it one way and it doesn't get, but if you try it another way and then maybe eventually the scientific method,
right,
someone will finally understand. And I think if you stop writing off people as just being imbeciles and stupid all the time and really just be like, hey, yeah, they're just maybe not in this right mind. And if you get them to a spot where they can absorb a scientific idea and you get them at the right moment where, they need that information, I think they'd be more apt to maybe pursuing that kind of stuff if it's something that they're interested in. Not everybody's interested in it. Yeah. That's fine. But I think that I still think it's important. And I think it's important for other people to be educated and understanding of certain scientific principles rather than just whatever.
Yeah. It's like the argument kind of for college general studies where it's like, no, you don't need to specialize in science, you don't need to specialize in English, you don't need to specialize in civics, but you should kind of have a basic knowledge so that you can function properly in the world. And it does kind of seem, like I said, and maybe it's just the way it's presented, like the jaywalking, like the talking to people on the street that I'm sure some people come up to them and know exactly what's going on, but they only show the people that have no idea what they're talking about.
Yeah, and they're just
it kind of makes you feel like maybe there's something wrong, but yes, there may be something wrong with them, but in general it may be everything's kind of okay. It's just needs to be better. Everybody needs to be caught at a better time and understand these things are important because this, and this.
Mm-hmm.
I think the other side of this that becomes difficult for people is that at least now, at this current time that they're doing the Cosmos show, is to reiterate your point of how important it is that this become inspirational and that more people understand that this matters and is important, is that NASA has been defunded to its lowest point since inception.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right? Or however that,
I think just politically and then, socially, the social contract of specifically the United States of America is just important now, that we've tried to make it. President Obama had an address at the beginning of the episode, and he's trying to double down, but he's one of the ones that pulled half those fundings from NASA. So I guess I'm missing his moment of making science important enough to fund it again, but he's part of the problem of defunding it. So I guess I'm miffed there.
Well, but I hear a lot of the public say that, though. Why are we sending stuff to Mars when we've got, unemployment and deficits and all of this at home? And it's that's always an argument, right?
Yeah, it's true. It is. But I think that half of those reasons for sending that exploration and understanding those things, without getting too political, I get that. But trying to really just grasp people's attention on science and then maybe showing them that there's an advancement for careers there. I mean, if we aren't paying the people that are actually supposed to be rocket scientists and we no longer fund rocket scientists, no one's going to want to go to school to be a rocket scientist because they're not getting paid.
Yeah.
They're not making money. If there's no future for them in rocket scientry, then there's no one that's going to want to go into rocket science. That's just
common families at the end of the day.
At the end of the day, that's what matters, right? I mean, your family or your loved ones.
I mean, we're actually sort of. This is part of one of Neil deGrasse Tyson's more famous speeches too. Is about you don't go into space exploration for the 2-year, the 3-year plan. You go into it for the 20, the 25, the 50-year payout, because it gets the generation excited about it today. The kids who haven't decided what their careers are going to be.
Yep.
It's deciding, if you can get them excited about it now, it's deciding what's going to happen in their generation when they're in their primes. When they are now, when 30 years from now, when they are adults and developing the next tech, I mean, rocket science is an interesting one because we're sort of at the cap of our chemical propulsion, right?
Exactly.
So we need to make some sort of breakthrough on that. And when we originally came up with rocket science, it was a whole other slew of technologies that came out of that. I mean, when we funded so much science maybe for the bad reasons, but when we were trying to come up with the when we were trying to come up with the atomic bomb, we came up with semiconductors and computers, right? So whoopsie-daisies, we came up with the IT boom.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it took a long time for that to actually develop to the point that it was, made such a huge impact. But think about today if we didn't have computers. You know what I'm saying? It would be
really. It's like 50 years ago, a computer took up the size of this room here.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, cars wouldn't
and
be.
And now
what
I
they
have
were
more
today.
computing process in my phone or on my watch than I have.
And they had that whole room.
In that whole room.
Yeah, exactly.
It's crazy.
So I mean, you got to think that there's. I know people joke about, we got Tang.
Yeah.
Clearly, we got so much
Tang.
more out of that.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And you got to believe that if people are excited about their future in something that's science, because that's what's going to make your next boom. It's not just the companies aren't going to take on this much threat. You know what I mean, or this much risk.
Yep.
That's why it has to happen at the government.
Yeah. But
Agreed.
even if you have a private company take on the risk of it, the issue is they take on the risk to a certain extent for profit.
Right.
It's not, we want to get into space because, hey, we think this will be cool and this will be cool and this will be cool. It's, we want to get into space because this exists and we think we can make money from it, and so we'll get our money back, so we'll totally invest in it now, and we'll get our money back.
We'll mine asteroids.
Right, mine asteroids.
Actually, that's a good point, because there was an article last week about they signed some emergency or some whatever. It was like from a pool of funds that the government still had, and they ended up releasing it to NASA for a project on don't just mine from the asteroid, but it was a project to get the asteroid in an Earth orbit. So it was send an unmanned ship to this asteroid and somehow alter its orbit or its trajectory so it became in Earth orbit.
A satellite, essentially.
So that by 2025 we can start mining it.
Wow.
And the idea was put a budget out there in the millions, and we've analyzed some asteroids and things just from our satellites that go past them and what our theories are of what is contained inside those. And it seems plausible that if we get an asteroid with enough rare metals in them, that the project could more than pay for itself.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, it would totally trash whatever metals market. If it was like rare earth magnets or something like that, it would bring in a lot of cash and maybe would totally demolish that market here, but it would probably pay for that project and then some. So I don't know. To me, this is definitely worth it.
You're right. It's a no-brainer for us, and we're not necessarily the people that they're trying to get wrapped up into science. But I don't know. It's very inspiring, and it needs to happen.
Yep.
All right, well, jumping from science fact to science fiction. Neil Blomkamp came out with District 9 several years ago.
Yes.
District 9 was actually intended to be a Halo movie.
It was the scraps.
It was the scraps from a Halo movie. It was basically they wanted to make Halo, and either Bungie or Microsoft pulled the plug on it, so they shifted everything over and made District 9. Why is there no Halo movie? Josh, any thoughts there?
Why isn't there one?
Why is there no Halo movie? Why are you not?
Because the people that
why are
hold
you
the
not
rights.
Why are you not working on this?
The people that hold the rights to Halo right now are retards.
No.
Okay, so when did Forward Unto Dawn come out?
That was like last year, 2012?
No, 2020. Last year would have been 2013.
2012?
Time Traveler.
Was it
Welcome to
2012
the
or was it
future.
even?
No, I think it was
2010 or 2011.
No, it wasn't that old.
2012.
It just came out not long ago.
It was 2012. It was 2012.
It was
Okay.
it was post Halo 4, wasn't it?
When I
Yeah, it was
Reach.
Reach.
Was it?
Reach.
Yeah, it might have been during Reach.
No.
Somebody.
Yeah, it was during
we'll look it up
No,
later.
it was not.
And
It
we'll-
was
we'll-
Forward
No,
Unto
okay.
Dawn just came
Right
out in
before
2012 because it was when I bought my house. I was watching it down here.
Okay.
Well, they were moving the house into
Okay,
position.
so anyhow, that's about a year old.
Yeah.
2-ish, whatever. Anyhow, and that was supposedly our Halo movie. It was little parts. They released them on YouTube, and Netflix has the whole thing, I think. In awesome HD, and it's pretty. It's not a Halo movie. I mean, it's not. It's not, and I don't know if you could come up with something to follow, Master Chief, and really just like what his backstory is. You could probably
felt more Battlestar to me.
Yeah, a little bit, and it's just
not that Battlestar's bad.
I think this is just like capital gold. That like if they made it, and even if it was like 10% plot, 90% action, still freaking good.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, you could Michael Bay the crap out of this, and holy hell, it would be an awesome thing. I don't understand why they don't. I really just don't.
Honestly, I think it's the rights. It's Microsoft.
I'm sure that's what it is, but
not liking what
343 Studios still has the rights, right?
Well,
I mean, based through Microsoft.
The problem with the Peter Jackson whole fiasco. Do you remember that when he was producing the Halo movie?
That's what ended up going out to
9.
District 9.
District 9.
I don't know what happened to it, but I'm guessing
Fox, I thought, pulled money away.
It might have been, and I'm guessing a lot of it was because he also got tapped for The Hobbit.
Yes, there was that too.
He wanted to do The Hobbit. I'm guessing is really what happened.
He said, "Look, guys, I want to make The Hobbit, but it's got to be 3 movies long. I don't have time to do a Halo movie."
Exactly.
Well, I don't know that he was going to direct it, but he wanted to produce it to make it happen. But there's just so many. There's so many.
But he is one of those guys where, like,
politics.
I'm not worried about, like, if he had a reason for not doing something, it's probably just the same as his reasons for doing something. Is he because he wants to do it at that point in time? And so I think waiting too long for characters to maybe die off or whatever, he wanted to make sure it was done first, and then he could address something. Whereas, like, with the Halo movie, you could probably stream together a whole bunch of nobodies, like in theater wise, and not have it really affect somebody's career rather than being typecast. So maybe that's what he was worried about, and that pause there was simply because he wanted to get all that done first beforehand. I don't know. Like I said, if I had his phone number, I'd call him right now.
All right,
I'd be
so
like, hey, what's the deal with this?
Forward Unto Dawn, now we're on the same page. The Forward Unto Dawn was the training...
Yep.
The training academy, sort of Ender's Game.
It was for Halo 4 because the guy the main lieutenant guy ended up being the captain or admiral or whatever.
Halo 4 came with a download code for Forward Unto Dawn that I don't think I ever used.
Yeah. I was thinking about the Halo DVD that had like 13 different...
not Legends. Is it Legends?
Yeah, it might be Legends. Halo Legends. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. 2010, 2011.
Oh, okay. The anime Halo and it's all cartoon stuff.
Well, not all cartoon. Some of them was CG.
Was it? Yeah, it was like the Matrix Reloaded. I I think.
Not kind of like Animatrix.
Animatrix. I'm sorry. Yeah, Animatrix.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, it was very similar to that.
Yeah,
actually.
So that one was kind of like little short stories about not necessarily Master Chief. I think there were a couple that were just random Spartans and stuff like that.
Some about the elites.
Yeah, some about
Japanese elites.
Yeah. Yeah, he was wearing the
samurai armor.
Right.
Yeah.
And somehow they acquired hay hats and it was samurai swords.
You were like, who drew this?
I don't know why, but it should happen.
It definitely should. You would think. I mean, with movies out there like Need for Speed.
Yes.
Why are those or Pacific Rim?
You know why it worked? Because Fast and Furious sells, and they see an opportunity here with
the Lost.
Right. There's an opening.
So ridiculous.
It might work with. Jesus, what is that kid's name from Breaking Bad?
Jesse Pinkman.
Yes.
The actor.
Aaron Paul.
Yeah.
Yes, Aaron Paul. With him doing that might actually work. I don't know. But anyway,
they didn't
with
do
things
very
like
well
that,
in the
you would think
box office though.
This is the first weekend for it, so I don't know.
Yeah, no, it didn't. It didn't win. What was the other one?
But I would think with movies like that, seeing an opening and would appear to be well funded. You know, what I mean, it's not like they had a lack of
the trailer
actors
looks kind of ridiculous.
So I don't know. I would think that even a half-assed Assassin's Creed or Halo movie, why hasn't it happened?
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. It really doesn't.
2 questions. So, are they afraid of Doom?
I think that's their worry.
And
to be honest, but
assuming they made it, where would it fall? Where would you want to see a Halo movie actually fall in?
Oh, in the continuity?
Yeah. Would you want to see a movie of the first game? Would you want to see it somewhere What would you want to see?
You know what? That's an interesting question. I think you could probably condense the first one.
Yeah.
Like the first
That's where
game.
you have to start.
You start it there,
Yeah.
and you really just you go from there. And if it does well,
You don't do a sequel, though. You go back and you do Reach.
yep.
Interesting.
That's what I was thinking. But, I mean, you could kind of, if you marveled it at the end and have a little teaser, like they did in the game, you might be able to do that.
I don't think
And
it'll
I think it
happen.
would be fun.
And here's why. Because the Halo TV show that they're working on right now.
Oh, I didn't know there was a Halo.
Yeah,
TV show.
Spielberg.
That might
yeah,
fill
Spielberg.
the gap.
Well,
for me then.
Spielberg,
That
yeah.
might actually
Spielberg
do it.
came out and said that he was producing or doing
So long as
whatever,
it doesn't
something.
turn out to be District 11.
Yeah.
Well, either if it's going to be a Halo movie that it at least involves Master Chief, that it doesn't turn into Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., where there's this awesome universe that you've seen in the movies and you've seen in the games, and then there's this shit going on over here
That nobody cares
that is
about.
aware of all this stuff and makes references to it, but never shows up here, even though you can throw it a bone every once in a while.
Yeah. They always
So
try
yeah, if it's like
Have
oh,
you
we're gonna
watched
do-
Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.?
I no.
No? Okay, me either.
I'm gonna comment on
This
it.
is
but
what I've never watched it either.
No, I
This is
have to be
why.
honest.
Yeah.
This is why. And this is what worries me with like superhero type things on TV. And I'm almost worried about a Star Wars TV show.
Yeah.
Because I think that the movie, like when you put it in a sense where if I know it came out as a movie, I'm more apt to be okay with more movies.
right.
But if it started its life as a TV show, then it's cool when it comes to a movie. But I don't think you can take something that's it has been a movie and then turn it into TV shows and make it work. I mean, maybe. I mean, depending on what happens.
Yeah, I
But-
think I see. Yeah, I mean,
Would you? But I mean, on the flip side, there are others that have done it or have gone back and forth and done okay.
I think the issue with the going from a TV show to a movie is you get the feeling that because it's been a TV show for so long, it's just a long fucking episode. Like the
Yeah.
X-Files movie or the
Yes.
Simpson movie was an episode.
Mask of
It
the
was just
Phantasm,
long.
Star
Batman
Trek.
the Animated Series,
Yeah,
or whatever movie.
Star Trek
long
yeah.
episode.
That
It was really just a long movie or like long episode,
Yeah.
and it was gritty. And as a kid, I didn't understand it.
Yeah.
I was going back and watching it. As
It's
an adult.
awesome.
It was freaking awesome.
Yeah.
It was really depth, gritty storyline,
Yeah.
and it kept with that same level, but it just I don't know.
Yeah. But like I said, my
Different
concern
time.
with the TV series, not knowing hardly anything all about it, would be that it would want to be Forward Into Dawn. So it would
Yeah.
want to be, oh well, this exists in the Halo universe, but we're not following.
So do you follow
Master
John
Chief
then?
or-
That's what I think.
I would
And
see.
you don't really know it's
No. This is what I've heard somebody suggest. They're like, why not? If they're going to show John, why not go from the birth? Start with the
Yeah,
Spartans.
start with it.
Start with the Spartans
Program.
when they're young and they're doing the program. So basically, you have
treats it
Soldier.
almost like
You have Soldier.
Yeah,
Kurt Russell.
Kurt Russell.
Right.
Yeah, it's
And
that same
well,
kind
and
of.
there's a lot of canon to draw from there. There are
The Smallville.
There are like the Halo series of books.
10 seasons of
So
fail.
there's like Onyx
Sorry.
and Contact.
Yep.
And all the other
Yeah,
Halo series.
there's all that.
There are several
Yep.
comic book, like 4 or 5 issue comic book shorts that kind of. There's a Halo boot camp that kind of follows. John's starting out in the boot camp and going through there. So
Oh, interesting.
yeah, I think you could get away with
You
start
know what? Take
fresh.
creative liberty and just do it.
Yeah.
See what happens. I think that they're just always worried about these things like Doom or whatever, where it just takes it and then they fail. But if you don't do anything, how am I supposed to comment on it, or how am I supposed to understand? And if it doesn't work, can somebody come back and then make it work later again?
Doom was doomed to fail.
It was.
Pun intended. There. But I mean, seriously, like the storyline with Doom was,
It was
not
not.
They
very
didn't.
good.
They didn't even get close to what they did in Doom 3. Like Doom 3 was a better storyline than what the movie was, and they tried to use that as the metric for
Yeah.
it, and
Yeah.
it still
I
wasn't
don't
even
know why
close.
they
Like
even-
if they'd have just
Too
stuck
bad.
to what Doom 3 was written as, they
But
probably
even Doom 3 with its improved storyline
Yeah.
is nowhere near the Halo universe.
no,
No.
not at all. I mean, it was not developed that way.
Right.
I don't know.
But yeah, I
Clearly, we need more sci-fi in our lives.
Yes.
There is
More TV because there's obviously not enough backlog to watch right now.
Well, there's not enough
Apologies.
science fiction on TV though. And I think we've mentioned this several times on the podcast.
Yes.
Yeah.
That we just don't have enough. And I'm not even just talking about like science hard facts, like, Cosmos, but just entertaining science fiction stuff. It's just not there anymore.
Yeah.
And
Well, one
that's
of the
depressing.
Yeah, I guess one of the major driving factors of what was science fiction on TV was like the Star Trek series, and we haven't had. Most people would say we haven't had a good Star Trek series since what? Next Generation, Voyager. You guys would probably say.
I would say Deep
Would you say
Space Nine.
Space?
Deep Space
Oh,
Nine?
I would say Deep Space Nine.
Okay, but-
It's good. Voyager
But,
is good
okay,
too.
so
I
since
liked
Star
it.
Trek, though.
Right.
Right.
Since Star Trek.
I love it. You're like, oh my, even though you haven't seen it. Did you watch Battlestar Galactica
No.
at all?
Okay.
Okay.
I was saying, oh my, to
Oh.
Deep Space Nine.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Well, the reason why I asked you is because one of the creators of Deep Space Nine went on to do Battlestar Galactica, and it was fantastic. Ron Moore. I mean,
Yes.
it
He
was,
might be a good writer.
Very
Deep
good.
Space Nine.
Yeah.
But
I think-
that gets. It's true. I've been.
Oh,
one of-
they go nowhere.
Right. But
Kinda.
It seems
Not
like
really.
the last offering was Enterprise, which apparently really did boldly go nowhere as a series.
it was not as bad as what
I've not finished
People
watching it. I
say.
watched a handful of episodes and they were okay.
Yeah.
I think we'd kind of gotten spoiled with all the fanciness that was the Next Generation and Deep Space Nine and Voyager being the future.
and then doing prequel.
And then Enterprise is like, well, it's a couple years out. I mean, it's okay.
Yeah.
So I guess the question here is, where the hell's our Star Trek? Where is the current incarnation?
Can it move on without Gene Roddenberry?
Yeah.
Is that really when it started
I
dying?
think so.
I think it can move on without him.
Do you look to your fans? Because Nemesis was, I thought, pretty good.
I liked it.
I like Nemesis, even though it got kind of
Was
mixed
that
reviews.
fan?
That was fan written.
Yeah.
Really?
That wasn't a Gene Roddenberry.
I didn't know that was fan written.
Yeah.
I thought it was just script written by somebody. Did he write the other movie scripts? Gene
No.
Roddenberry? He said it wasn't written by Gene Rod. I don't.
No, Nemesis wasn't.
I know,
No,
but like
Nemesis.
First Contact probably wasn't. Gene Roddenberry.
He was
Jonathan
alive.
Frakes did the second one.
Yeah.
Insurrection. That was Jonathan Frakes' written one.
Oh, okay.
And directed too. I'm pretty
Oh.
sure. Yeah, he did. He did.
Yeah, he did.
Insurrection,
He,
it was that
he
one. That was
directed
his baby.
First Contact.
Yes,
as
I think
well.
he directed that one.
Yeah.
I don't know if he wrote it.
Either
So
way,
it's really
Yeah.
good.
So
First Contact's my favorite.
do you come back to the existing, what is now considered old Star
you
Trek
can't.
universe?
You can't.
Do you take the new canon from the new films and make a series out of that?
This
You
is-
can't use the Enterprise though. I
Why
don't
not?
think. I don't think you can because you'd be expecting that cast.
Kirk.
Yeah, you'd be expecting him, and you'd be expecting Spock, and you know what I mean. The cast is too high. The
What
cast
about-
is movie.
What about Picard?
No.
Set in the future. From the
a
split.
young Picard, slightly starting to receding Picard, not bald
Possibly.
Picard.
I don't know.
I
Maybe.
think like a Picard Adventures leading up to Captain of the Enterprise.
Yeah.
Because
Maybe.
there had to be some path
He's
from
like an action-based
honestly-
thing or something. Or just take new characters. Make a new captain.
No, yeah, that's what I was thinking. I think they have to divulge themselves from what that was, from the 90s, the 80s to 90s to early 2000s, all of that stuff that happened. That's what the whole J.J. Abrams reset was. That was, hey, that universe is so big and convoluted at this point that in order for me to do something,
I have to have a canon eraser.
seriously, that's what he says. It's like in order,
That's what it's called.
anachronistically
The
wipe out
giant
everything.
cannon says eraser on it.
Yeah, launch the
That's
bazooka of
Nemo's fire everything.
I like it. No,
Yeah.
it's true. I think that's what that was hey, in order to bring this in as a fresh start, a reboot, if you will, for people that hate that word, but I think you use the changes that have happened from the movies. You don't use Enterprise and all of that, but you say, hey, now that Vulcan's blown up, spoilers for the first movie, you know the rules. No, but now that Vulcan's gone and you have all this universe that's been kind of like thrown on its head, the people that were original Trekkies will want to watch it because they're like, what the fuck are they going to do with this?
Yeah,
Vulcan's
that's true.
gone. What the hell? So you use that. You leverage.
Klingons are totally different.
Klingons are different.
Yeah.
Yes.
Romulans haven't
There's no Romulans in there yet. I mean, they know about them, obviously because of Nemo.
Nemo, yeah.
But
Nero.
Thank you.
Nemo.
Finding Nemo.
I was going to say clownfish flying up in his ship up there.
So what do you
Hail
do?
Marys.
Do you
Just keep
follow?
swimming.
Do you follow an Enterprise then? Is that what you're suggesting? It's just not.
You mean like multiverse?
1701A?
Oh, you could.
I think what
You
Ryan's
could.
saying is that at like TV level, you're gonna have a hard time pulling, Chris Pine. And
No,
Zachary
yeah,
Quinto
you avoid those guys like
No,
the
no.
plague. You avoid
Because it would
going
just
to
drive
that.
the budget too high.
And you don't pull the Marvel. I think you go 10 years in the future after.
So 1701B new
yeah,
universe.
B or
new,
Charlie.
Yeah, in the new universe.
Either one of those.
Yep.
Okay, so you do something similar to Generations, where there's a handoff.
Yeah.
Hey,
yeah.
So
you
first
bring those
episode,
guys in.
Sure.
bring them in for an episode,
Sure.
and you say, they hand off to
Absolutely.
1701B.
Yeah, you could do that. You could do the whole
And-
hero's journey for the new captain taking over, and you had Chris Pine hand it off. You could even have a cameo if you really want to
Right.
do that. I mean, or you just have him like say, "I remember, Kirk from the old days."
You don't even
and
need
that.
all of them. You could just have Chris Pine in there
We-
at Starfleet.
We need
Right,
a next generation
Right.
of the new universe
Yeah.
Generations
Yeah.
only had
to pull it in.
Like I said, Generations only had Kirk and
Didn't have Spock.
no, it had Sulu.
Sulu.
And-
Yeah.
No, it had...
It had Scotty.
Or
Scotty,
did-
yes.
Scotty
it had
was
the
in
engineer.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
And Chekhov.
Chekhov.
Chekhov was in it.
That was it. Chekhov.
So they could do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you could do something like that.
Yeah.
The captain, the engineer, and the piloting ensign. Is that what he was?
Yeah.
Right.
Or it might have been Sulu's daughter
I don't remember.
was the ensign. or
There were
whatever.
three.
On the original
Yeah.
series, how many starships did they actually burn through? Because 1701A was the original Enterprise.
They didn't.
Did they
They
ever
didn't
do
on the
in
show.
the original series, they never burned through a ship.
It wasn't until they came to the movies.
Did the movies?
that
The
they-
movie put the A on it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Did the movie ever do a B or a C? Because the Next Generation was D, right?
It was
Yeah.
D.
The B and the C were retroactively
E was-
added from Next Generation into the canon. Like
And
you
they-
see them in a
they
time
didn't
travel
really-
episode or whatever. Like the C, was it the C that got lost or something in one of the episodes? I feel like it was like
They hardly
got
ever
stuck
touch
in
on
a,
them
like an
in
Nexus or
anywhere.
So that's
something.
what I'm saying. Is
Yeah.
that that's an option.
So, yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
it's new canon. So it
Yeah,
doesn't matter.
yeah, it's
I
new
know.
canon.
That's
Like
what
they
I'm saying.
could, they could entirely do that, and the worry is that they go Enterprise with it. Like
It would be
Star
too
Trek
early.
Enterprise. Yeah, which is why you want to make sure it's got that futuristic look to it.
Yeah.
And because it's
I
a
think-
divergent universe, I think you could do whatever you want with it.
Because
you can claim
if you go
time
if you go Charlie, so if you go 1701 Charlie
Yep.
in new universe,
Yep.
you can still have Kirk as like a so you have Pine in there as like a general or something.
Admiral.
Just
Admiral.
or Admiral,
Yeah,
right?
it was like-
General.
General
him in there-
disarray.
You have him in there as the admiral that sort of grants his blessing on it, since his first ship was the Enterprise or his whatever.
It's a trap.
And then maybe you have some guy that you don't know who that is, but you find out he was the captain of the B, handing over putting his blessing on the C, and then they go out.
Sure.
And who knows where they go with that. But I would think you pull from your fan base that knows how to write. You know what I mean? Because
Yep.
Nemesis was good, and there are other good writers out there, and there's some people that can get you a lot of script ideas. I mean, look at how many things are out there for trying to find talent in just a fan base anyway. I mean,
Wait, hold on. Wasn't Twilight fan fiction?
Yeah.
Was it?
Or not Twilight.
50 Shades of Grey was Twilight fan fiction.
I think you may be barking at the wrong tree asking the fans for submissions.
Wildly successful. Yeah, I was going to say.
say,
Wildly
successful.
successful,
It
though.
was, yeah.
50 Shades of Grey, wildly
I
successful.
mean,
in the-
Twilight with some name changes and some
Yeah.
ass beating.
Yeah. Seriously, no.
So I
That's
don't
just on the pretext.
How did we go from Star Trek to 50 Shades of Grey? Oh my!
Chris.
Sorry about that.
50 Shades
Epic.
of Earl Grey.
Earl Grey hot.
Wait,
Tea Earl Grey.
not sure where that would go. But I'd probably watch it anyway.
Picard.
The Borgs would be interesting.
Yeah. Prepare to be a ass.
Resistance is
Assimilated. Resistance is futile. It only serves to make my penis harder.
Going down in a...
This is not how you start a Star Trek show.
No,
Do
definitely
it
not.
to boldly go where no one has gone before.
No one wants to go.
No, none of the ball gag and
No,
resistance is futile.
No, none of that.
No.
And then come back out, and then go back in, and then come back out, and go back in.
Oh god.
So I guess one last question: would it make sense? I know we've said kind of to put it in between Next Generation and the original series. Do you chance it and go further in the future than Next Generation?
I don't think you can go to the D. I don't think.
No. I wouldn't say D. I would say either you enterprise it past D,
Like G.
or you
then Kirk
you
isn't even there.
Yeah,
You
well, I'm
shouldn't be
okay with
alive.
that even too. I'm okay with that even too. Okay, so
But the hard part with that is you don't have a way of like basing it, because we won't know if it's a splintered universe. We won't know what happens with Picard in D. Does he even get it in that splintered?
he could have been dead.
Exactly.
He could have been killed in the Vulcan.
The crazy chain of events could change it so that you
I
wouldn't
think
even
you gotta
have-
stay fairly close.
I think so.
You can
Just
jump into
for now.
the future.
And you could throw a Picard bone here and there or whatever. You know, cameo type appearance or something.
So would you dare do if you're going to do C, would you do Picard as a lower rank?
Possibly.
Member of the ship or member of
Whatever
He
that ship
wasn't
he was
on
on.
a ship.
He
He was-
mentioned a couple of times he was on one ship or whatever as a first officer. Stargazer or something. I don't know. Anyhow, it was a science vessel, right? Because he was a science guy, right? Before he went command.
I think that would be tough though. Finding somebody that could play him, maybe.
Yeah,
I don't know. But I do think you go either
Like
1701B
Michael
or C.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's true.
He's bald. It'd work.
Well, he's when he shaves his head.
Yeah. You get some good
just
stuff.
get
Actually, he
the
would be a
movies.
really good freaking captain.
Who would-
Right?
Michael Rosenbaum,
Rosenbaum.
the guy that played Lex
Lex
Luthor in
Luthor,
Smallville.
Smallville.
Oh man, he'd be a really good captain.
Yeah.
Actually,
Yeah.
huh?
I don't know.
I like that. It was a good random throw out, sir. But I think you could go anywhere with it as well. Pun, but as long as you
boldly go
stick,
So we go boldly.
you could stick as long as you stick with that. I will say formula, but that magical exploration, diplomacy, all of the kind of beauty that comes in Star Trek. As long as you keep that core principle, and keep the production values up with what Star Trek was, because it was. At the
And those
time, it
asshole
was
planets
high.
that don't want to do anything Federation.
Yeah,
related.
exactly.
Oh, fuck those guys in uniform.
You know what I think would be kind of interesting, and this is just from the guy that enjoys all the espionage and seeing the two sides and whatnot. It would be interesting if they started pulling it off and the first season was successful. When you do a second season, you do 2 shows, or you do every other episode or something like this, where you do one side is some up and coming captain in the Romulan side or the Klingon side.
That'd be kind of cool.
And so you sort of
Spin it.
see,
You can do that.
right?
Yeah.
Exactly. So you sort of
Do
see
a-
different sides.
do
of
a
it.
series from a different species point of view.
Yeah.
See
Could
how
be
that
interesting.
Or even have them if they're concurrent or something like that, where you hear about something that happened on the, in the whatever the new neutral zone or whatever the equivalent would be to that, because I
Sure.
don't even know if that's going to exist in this next universe. I don't know.
But that's just it. Like they don't have it set in stone, so we could make the writers have creative.
Liberties,
Well,
Yeah.
The neutral zone was mentioned in Into Darkness, wasn't it?
Well, I don't know.
I think it
You haven't
was.
seen Into Darkness?
I just don't remember. Sorry.
You get the long stare.
Sorry.
The long
They
phone.
went to the neutral zone. That's what they meant.
That's the whole plotline is they had to go
Into the neutral zone to
um,
get what's his face.
I just didn't know
Yes.
that was the neutral zone.
I thought
Yeah,
it
they
was
had to go to
because
the-
they.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, anyway,
We're
so
gonna go to
anyway,
the positive zone instead.
Right.
So if
Awesome.
they did that, that would be pretty interesting,
Negative
especially
now.
if like the Klingons or the Romulans or somebody ran into like the Q beings. That would be freaking awesome.
Pretty cool.
Get John Delancey in there as an old guy. I'm from Fort Wayne.
I like it.
Yeah. So, crossing fingers. Hopefully,
Yeah.
Yes.
I
they
think
realize
we'll get.
the
I think
potential
we'll
there.
get a series on TV eventually. I think it's too big of a property not to.
And this certainly has reignited some Star Trek fandom here.
And space.
It's
And space. We talked about Cosmos. There's
All that stuff. Is
more
there.
people will
It
hope.
might help too with like Star Wars. Like if that really
actually, believe it or not, Star Wars would probably help.
You know,
Yeah.
it doesn't even really have to be called Enterprise. I think it would work well.
Yeah,
it's true.
But I mean, Voyager did well without doing that.
Right, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Any kind of craft, whatever they had, as long as it's like, set in that universe ish, and then go from there. No names, it's fine.
It's a
You do,
great
really
palette,
okay
or
with it,
empty
isn't it?
palette for people to write to.
You could do
Yep.
what was Sulu was the captain of a ship, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Yes.
The
Remember his name?
Excelsior.
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 That'd be a fabulous series.
Fabulous.
Oh my.
Oh my.
I actually would watch
That would be-
I would
if-
watch the crap out of that.
As popular as George Takei,
is.
or Takai, depending on how you
Yeah.
say it, is on the internet, he would totally get so many people to watch that. If he was like the
It's
captain or like an admiral in
He'd
the
have
show.
to be an admiral.
In the show.
Yeah.
Like as a...
Because he's like too old to be the... At this point, he's too old
Unless he, like-
to play a let me be the science officer. You know,
Right.
it'd be like,
Oh, yeah.
let me just walk up and down the bridge.
Remarkably healthy for his old age.
It's true.
All right, well, I guess we'll wrap it up there. Be sure to like us on the Facebook, facebook.com/fairly awesome podcast.
The Facebooks.
Go on the internets and type it into your address bar, that thing at the top. If you're still on AOL, I'm sure it's like keyword Facebook, maybe. Something like
Probably.
that.
You'll have to connect to the go round.
Yeah.
I think that is go round.
Jesus.
Kids
It's like a
don't.
V8 modem over there.
28 baud
He's,
modem.
he's connecting to the internet via horse.
Come along.
Very nice. Yes. Be sure to also follow us on Twitter at FAPcast. Like us, I guess subscribe here on YouTube so you
Yes.
can see all the videos we put out and catch all the podcasts and stuff. And
Like all the things.
like all the things. And come back next time because we love you.
Yes.
Yeah, don't leave us. And happy St. Patrick's Day. Patrick's Star Day. All right.
Is this Sparta? No, this is
Sparta.
Patrick.
This is Patrick.
This is Sparta.
Oh,
Slow motion. All right. We'll see you later.
See you guys.
ciao. And I was like, God damn it!
I had to stop myself because you're like, oh, Sulu could be an admiral. And I'm like,
A rear admiral.
Outtake!
Rear admiral.
rear admiral.
A rear admiral?
Oh no.
Oh no!
Except for he goes, oh my.
Oh,